Fast forward a few millennia, and here we are, enjoying the spoils of a multi-generational collective struggle. We are free citizens of a working democracy and enjoying what can be considered the pinnacle of human creativity, or one of the pinnacles of human creativity, which is artificial intelligence. You would also imagine that in this brave new world that we're living in, we're also free to think, and to an extent also free to express our opinions. But are we really truly free to think? When I was researching for this sermon, I decided to look at a compilation of sermons from Rabbi John Rayner, titled An Understanding of Judaism. This particular sermon I looked at was called Miriam and Deborah, also delivered at Shabbat Beshalach in 1993. It's a very incisive essay. I must remind you that Miriam is the prophet, the heroine of the parashat, and Deborah, the heroine of the corresponding haftarah. The sermon from Dr. Rayner goes on into the false sense of religious freedom women were subjected to within the Orthodox community, and how then Rabbi Sachs, pressured by the Dionymus of his community, very, very generously granted them the right to pray a vetoed list of prayers, and that they don't do it in the synagogue. It all seemed very retrograde, especially in 1993. So this theme of emancipation of our parashat, together with Rabbi Rayner's positive and hopeful outlook on women's religious emancipation in Jewish history, and within the progressive movement, got me thinking about our collective intellectual emancipation. And most importantly, and more worryingly, that of our children and future generations. Emancipation, I should remind you, in the Roman world, meant to free someone from the bond of a master, or quite literally, from the paternal authority, which was then called pater potestas. So, ergo the question, who or what is the master of our intellectual freedom? Who or what owns the information we consume? Are we living in an era of digital feudalism? To answer this question, we need to explore a bit more the digital world we are embedded in and dig a bit deeper into the concept of AI. I'll get you up to speed if you missed the recent Notion Drosh that was here at the LJS about AI, which was a quite good one, so I heard. So even if you're living the proverbial hole in the ground, you are inadvertently bumped into AI. From when you raise up to when you lay down, it touches your life. It is at the core of smart living and automation and productivity these days. In simple words, it is at the core of your smartphones and your smart homes, perhaps. We are at the cusp of something big. I work in the field of AI. You could say I eat AI for breakfast. But according to Professor Darren Acemoglu, who was last year's Economics Nobel Prize, we may end up soon in a situation where this very same AI makes life so comfortable that it may take away most people's livelihood. Or, in a less dystopian scenario, it can contribute to creating a very mediocre society with very obnoxious robots. I don't know which way it will go, but let's try to hedge ourselves against either case by tapping into some fundamental tenets of Judaism. Time scarcity has forced us into a quest for productivity. We thought that by automating menial tasks, like writing boilerplate emails or soulless reports, we would be carving away time for ourselves, our family, our community, and our spirituality. Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you, that's only partially true. Why, when we are facing so much convenience, we feel ever more deprived of time? Is it because we lost track of meaningful living, and as a consequence of time itself? Now bringing to the equation information. I speculate that the time we recouped with our productivity tools have been filled with passively consuming heaps of information, oftentimes noisy information. Sadly, this also created a deep confusion in most people. We are confounding access to information with knowledge, and in fact, by now, we equate them. Those of us raised in slower, I include myself there, slower bygone generations, recall that knowledge and its sibling, wisdom, takes time to cook and digest. It's like a good Shabbat stew. A Holland, it's slow cooked, slowly savored. Unfortunately, it is becoming impossible to slow cook in this new world, with a myriad of distractions and driven by instant gratification. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a Luddite. I have a deep appreciation for technology. Technology can improve and save lives. And life is holy and precious for us Jews. That's pikuach nefesh, the sanctity of life. The conundrum is, can we find a balance between a life on the fast lane, which is a technology-driven life, and life in the slow lane, which is a humanity-driven life, that's required for deep intellectual and spiritual insights? I think all of us here, we are in a situation of a self-imposed pater potestas. A lot of us here by now go online and say, hey ChatGPT, can you be creative for me? We are giving up creativity in this process. Even if it's imperfect creativity, it is our creativity. It is what makes us human. However, we've unleashed the golem, and therefore we have a duty to our children and future generations to minimize and mitigate the harm it can cause and it will cause. Our children is growing up in this environment where these creative shortcuts are normalized, where creative expression is deemed effortless, in an environment where time does not have boundaries. Moreover, we may be depriving ourselves and our children of developing the critical thinking and the aesthetic sense required to judge what our robotic partners, perhaps, are uttering and creating. And here comes time. We can only discern and judge when there's time to reflect and contemplate. This is where critical thinking, deep insights, and aesthetics are developed. It's the slow-cooked stew again. So, enough with the problems. What is the solution? You should be asking by now, and I hope you are. I don't have a definite answer, but I do have the chutzpah to make a few suggestions that also reflect the way I'm living my life and the way I'm educating my own children. Help your children, grandchildren, or in fact any children in your social orbit achieve their intellectual emancipation to the fullest. Help them realize their full tikkun olam potential along the way. We need to continue instilling humanistic values into them, a sense of compassionate justice to help them repair the world. They are our hope. Allow me to be more prescriptive. Let me take a breath. A few months ago, National Geographic had a special issue on the hidden perils of the so-called tech-driven or tech-first education. There is scientific evidence by now that too much screen time is causing negative and concerning structural changes to our children's brain. Some schools, with chutzpah I should say, took some bold U-turns on their pedagogical proposals involving phones, tablets, and the like. Phones and tablets now stay out. Calligraphy is back, and so are arts and crafts and a plethora of other old-school teaching methods. These contrarian schools are few, but they give us courage to push for similar changes in our local schools and help limit screen time. Do your part. Discuss the screen theme with your local schools too. Be a contrarian to pedagogical fads and avoid embracing the false wisdom of the crowds. Debate, question, and challenge. Help your children disconnect. Help them become intellectually emancipated. Help them become independent. Be part of their analog lives. Play board games, do crafts, jam music with them, or go acting, or improv, enjoy a good play, organize storytelling, or even improv sessions at home. Help your children, any children in your life. Remember that by celebrating time and cultivating patience, we are also fostering humanity and compassion. According to Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz, creating a golem, that's not a big deal. The real challenge is to raise a human being. And in the Bavli Talmud, tractate Shabbat, we are told, Shabbat is when we finish our work so we can do work for the Eternal One. Anything involving bettering your children, educating them, spending time, or preparing them to face the challenges of a never-robotic world, these are all Shabbat-worthy deeds. Teach them freedom. Teach them that it takes creative effort to sustain their freedom. Shabbat Shalom.